Hello, and welcome to the 19th episode of the Frontend Coffee Break, a podcast where we just take a break from our everyday life and just enjoy a cup of coffee or whatever drink you want to enjoy and just talk about different front-end related topics. Today, I'm actually drinking decaf because I've already had my regular coffee, so I want to sleep. So that's why I'm taking this. Anyhow, as always, we have the fantastic presence of Ricard. Hello.
I am sadly out of juice, out of drinks, but yeah, I'm sorry. I know. I get fired, but I'm very good. You see, I'm very excited because on my project, I was doing something that I was looking forward for a very long time. It was dropping the custom modal dialogues for a native HTML dialogue, and it's beautiful. I wanted to share it with you because it's beautiful. I'm very proud. It's already in production, but you see, like the native HTML dialog gives you already everything: the functions to open, to close, accessibility, and I could just remove so much JavaScript. And you know how much I hate JavaScript. So yeah, it's a fantastic day.
I'm glad to hear that. And it must have been quite a challenge to do it, to change all the code, especially when you refactor code. It's usually quite a thing.
Yes, it was. I mean, there's a lot of regression testing, right, that you have to do to make sure that the whole website still works. But surprisingly, I mean, since we already had our own like events when you close, when you open, when you like preventing the default, when escape, and it just worked very fast. I'm very surprised.
Well, that's great. That's great. I've recently worked also on the first project that had native support for forms and dialogues and such, and it was quite interesting. It's a mind change, but as you say, there's so little code that you have to actually use because it does a lot of the things that you usually had to use. But in any case, speaking of that, it's a challenge. Today's we're precisely gonna talk about, should we as developers constantly be challenged on our work or feel challenged on our work? So let's talk a little bit about what we think about this. Is it the correct way to work or not? Or, well, just have our thoughts and a little bit of our own stories regarding this.
Yes. I'll start with a question to you and then we'll switch it up. I mean, sure, it's a personal thing, but do you feel like this feeling of challenge changes if you're a junior or a senior?
I do.
Okay.
Why? I feel that this is I don't know if it's based on experience or just because as you grow older, you just take things more slowly. But I do remember that when I was going to say growing up when I was a little kid, no, but when I started the career, I remember that I was constantly seeing all these new things popped up, and I needed to learn all these things. I was just, it's like when you're in the relationship, in the part of romantic part there, when you're still in love or in the, I don't know how to say it, in a more, no, that's not, I don't think that's the word. But anyhow, the thing is that at the beginning, I was super excited and I wanted to learn a lot of things. And I felt that if I wasn't working on something new, I was going to be just wasting my time. I just wanted to constantly be learning new stuff, and I wanted to work on new projects, and I wanted to do new things, and that's a feeling that I had. And as I through time, I felt less and less that need. I still feel sometimes that I want to learn new things, or I feel that need, like, I should be challenged, but I compensate it in different ways that we'll discuss a little bit later. And how about you? Do you think that it's different when you're a junior or when you're more experienced?
Yeah. I mean, definitely you've more or less like pictured also my own like career or beginnings, where at the very beginning I wanted to start many different projects like very rapidly, because that way I was able to incorporate new stuff, right? Usually it's like, okay, at the beginning I remember doing like very small static like pages, and it was maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks engagements. And then and I know that at the end of 4 weeks, I can start a new project from scratch. So meaning, okay, I can try a different build. I can try different CSS, different JavaScript, different things, because it's a new client, it's a new thing. And it was very exciting because back then, maybe 10 years ago or something, or 15 years ago.
It's quite at some time.
Yeah, sure. But there were like so many changes coming out, right? I mean, so like suddenly we went from tables to divs and borders and all those things that came around. So we wanted to try it out. And back then we didn't have like browser metrics to worry about. We just used the latest and greatest in production, and nothing happened. But yeah, is that fear of missing out thing, that so-called FOMO? Is that what you're feeling right now, Tucho? FOMO?
I sometimes used to, especially some years ago, not that many years ago, but I would say around 5, 6, 7 years ago, I was feeling this constantly because I was seeing other people work on other projects, with other frameworks, other technologies, and I was feeling like, okay, I'm right now sitting here working with whatever I was working at the time, and they're doing these incredible things, and you saw them and you talked, but that was back in the office, when we were in the office, which is, I think, has changed the feeling a bit, because back then you could see what you could literally see what people were doing at the moment that they were doing it. You would just walk by their desks and see something interesting, and you could just approach them and say, "Hey, what are you doing?" And they would explain it. And I remember thinking like, "Oh, I'd love to work on that. I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. I don't have the time." And just feel like you're not in the right project, and you start feeling like the project that you're working, it's not worth it, and so on. Right now, yeah.
No, it's a very personal thing. No, I mean, I surely also feel about that sometimes, saying, okay, I wish my project would have this framework, or that framework, or this technological tech stack, modern, whatever it is, right? But then it's not like, how is it the sentence in English? It's not always, I'll say how to say it. But it's like always the
grass is greener,
yes,
and the other and the neighbor's fenced.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I mean, but that's not always true. I mean, it looks like it's a modern stack, a modern way of doing it, but then maybe you jump into the project and it's a dumpster fire. Like maybe you're firefighting all day, you have to do crazy hours, or there's no processes put in place. So really, I mean, be careful. Yeah, sure. I feel like we are both equally wanting to learn the latest and greatest.
But I have to say that one of the things that have happened once we've moved from the office to working on remotely is that my sensation has reduced. At least why? Because I do not know exactly what all of my colleagues are exactly working on. We do have exchanges. I mean, you and I talk quite a bit, even though we're not in the same project. Well, we don't work that much together. We do have these chats. The same thing happens with Raul and other people that we talk about what you're doing or technologies and these kind of things. But I am not that up to date on what everyone's working on. So I don't know I don't feel like, oh, they're doing this super cool thing, so I should be doing it as well. So I think that has reduced my anxiety regarding this. But there's always Twitter now. I or other newsletters and this kind of stuff where you read all the things that are happening. When you see, especially old colleagues that have that you connected with, and you're following them, and you see what they're doing, and it's like, they're doing this incredible thing. I should be doing that. I should be working on these new things. I'm just wasting my time here. Blah blah blah.
Word of caution, Chuchen. So, as you know, many companies, not us, but there's this position called Developer Relationships Engineer, DevRel for short. And they're basically, they get paid to promote stuff on social media, be it Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Mastodon, whatever it is, and to promote stuff to just, engage with the community, right? And finally, to just drive value to the company, either by hiring talent or, raising brand awareness, whatever it is, right? So it's like a social media manager, but a developer, which of course can share code, they can code and can engage more into. So just be careful, but maybe, maybe they're getting paid to do that. And of course, they're always choosing the latest cool stuff to share. Of course, they will not share legacy jQuery. But, yeah.
Well, you're right about this. It's just like there's other social platforms where you see the pictures of people having this fantastic time, but they actually just take the picture and they just go like this. I don't know.
Instagram, yes. Right? Yes. You just take the picture, then behind you there's a pile of garbage burning. Your project manager is screaming at you, "Hey, when will you finish your tickets?" So yeah, who knows? Who knows really?
Well, and this, just to close up a little bit of this part of the topic, is that I do feel that, for example, sometimes feel anxiety of being challenged, of doing new stuff, of working on things that are different from the ones that I'm working on. But a lot of the time it's just because of this, because I see things that are happening elsewhere, and I maybe think that what I'm doing has no value, or that it could be better. And this is something that we should be just like when we're seeing other people's lives in Instagram and these kind of things, that, it's just a picture, a small picture, a small window in their lives, and you really don't know what's happening. The same thing happens with development. It's nice to keep up to date. If you feel something is interesting, you should definitely try it out. But you be careful of not feeling like, oh, they're doing so much. Well, maybe they're getting paid for that. Maybe that's what exactly they need to do, and they put along a lot of hours. It's not just fun.
Yeah, totally, man.
Well, we could talk about precisely the two options that we have in projects. Because sometimes you could either there are people that like to work on projects for very short periods and then just jump from project to project because they feel that they that's the way that they like, and that they want to be challenged all the time. And they feel that if they stay in one project, they're not challenged. And then there's people that is the other way around, that feel that they should stay in one or prefer to have one project and don't feel the need to be challenged or so on. So let's begin with this second one. What do you think about? No, the first one. Let's begin with the first one. What do you think about people? sorry, that want to jump from project to project?
I respect it. I think for juniors, it's especially positive because you want to be exposed to as much technology as possible, right? You want to try, I don't know, let's say we'll talk about websites. I want to try a React project. I want to try a Svelte project. I want to try a Vue project, vanilla project, this framework, that CMS, so as much as possible. Then you can get your own opinions and become a senior, right? Then more experience, you tried everything and you say, okay, I like this because of that, and I like that because of this. And I think it's positive. Now, if you're a senior, like jumping from project to project, for me will be a little bit exhausting because I prefer to build a long-term relationship with client team, trying to improve a product and deliver and believe in what I'm doing rather than dropping in my build. It works. Bye. I'm out in 3 weeks. Not my style.
But here it's funny because usually you're saying, having a junior moving from project to project, it's positive because they're exposed to a lot of technologies. But in the end, don't they become master of none, as they call it?
Okay. Granted,
Jack
you cannot
of all
do that
trades,
forever.
master of none. Because this is something that I see, and this is what I have against. I understand that juniors want to, as developers, as juniors, we want to learn and be exposed to a lot of things. But you have to be careful, I think, on moving from project to project, because you never become an expert on anything. I learned a little bit of React. I learned a little bit of Vue. I learned a little bit of Svelte. I learned a little bit of everything. And then after 2 years, imagine 2-3 years, you're moving around different technologies, different frameworks. They say, okay, we need someone that you have 3 years of development experience. Oh, and you know Vue, so you must know it quite well. Come work with us. It's like, well, I worked a little bit, 6 months with Vue, or the same thing with Angular, the same thing with React. It's like, you end up maybe becoming, don't having the expertise that one would expect you to have.
Yeah, but as long as you focus on the core technology, let's say, okay, you're doing JavaScript frameworks, but as long as you work on improving your JavaScript skills, you can apply them to any framework that will come next, right? I think that's why, or what defines as a senior, so we can get any framework, and more or less with proper time, we just get experts on that. So I agree with you in the terms that you cannot continually switch everything, because then of course you cannot go deep into a topic. If you just go 1 week, I'm going to do one animation, next week I'm going to do something else in JavaScript, then of course you will never get expert level on a topic. But on the other side, if you just force the people to stay in one project, they want to change, maybe they have to change companies. So you got to give them the opportunity to experience different stacks. And it doesn't mean 3 weeks, maybe it means 6 months or 8 months, right? Which is not a short period.
The thing is here, I guess, the takeouts like food. The takeaway, which is also with food, but the takeaway of this, I think, is that if you're a junior, it's fine if you want to be jumping from place to place, but be careful, because I think at least it's nice to get to know a lot of things, but it's better to be an expert or becoming expert in, especially as you mentioned, the bases, CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. Become an expert in these before to move out. And actually, I think that if you become an expert of these, anything new, like a new framework that comes out, you'll learn it even faster because you'll understand the basics of it. And even learning a framework a little bit more deeper will let you learn other frameworks quicker. So yes, it's nice to learn a little bit of everything, but it's also very important to get the basis well set. Now, regarding seniors, I do see, I don't think that the seniors should be jumping from project to project, as you say. And one of the main reasons of this is, and sometimes it's understandable because they might have this one senior and they need to move them for different projects so that they can, set up the projects and then move along. But I think that the biggest disadvantage of moving a senior like this, especially if it's your expert, is that you are depriving the rest of the team from the knowledge that senior could give them while working in that project. So, for example, if you have just the guy and his, guy or gal, the person that they're working on as a senior, and then suddenly it's like after 4 months, they're gone. It's like, and now we don't have a senior, now we don't have an expert. We'll have to learn to do it ourselves. Well, maybe you're missing out on having actually someone that can teach everyone about this. What do you think about it?
Yes, I mean, I see your point. You want your juniors to have a mentor so they can learn from. But if I'm devil's advocate and I go like in companies' view or direction, like you actually want your seniors to set up the fundamentals of the groundwork for the project. When the project is up and running, you just move to the next one and set up the new one and keep winning deals and engagements. And have a portfolio of accounts and let like the mid-levels become seniors themselves on that project by taking, accountability of a lead, like estimations, managing the team, all those things that you need to have. You need to make room for those below you to grow, right? And again,
that's true.
I'm not saying it, but I'm also in the same project for 6 years, so it's I'm just trying to give another point of view.
Yeah, but you've worked helping a lot of the people that have worked with you grow while working with them, showing them, sharing your knowledge and also pushing them to maybe push themselves to improve. But what would you say that these are some of the advantages? We've talked a little bit that you learn a little bit of everything. We've talked a little bit about the disadvantages as well, but there's any other disadvantages that you see from moving from project to project?
It's dangerous. I mean, we said it before that it's not greener because it's a new project. Maybe new project doesn't really mean like starting from scratch. Maybe new project means, okay, it's a new client, but you're inheriting a legacy code. And that's no fun. Like when you're used to, yes, I'm using the latest ECMAScript syntax, latest React, whatever it is. And then they tell you, here's a code base. And it's, full of bars, full of jQueries. And then they use nothing. It's just, one script at the bottom and you have to refactor the whole thing. Or no, or even the worst scenario where they say, please patch this thing because we have a need of adding a new feature and you cannot refactor it because it's too massive. We don't have the budget. So really, it's a gamble, right?
It is a gamble. And I guess that's a gamble that you need to, maybe if you want to learn new things, you have to. And I think it's important to that people think that learning new things or being challenged, it's only learning about the latest or the latest things that are out. But sometimes it's not about only about that. But going to a legacy project, which can be very frustrating, challenging, of course, will give you different lessons. Maybe you're not going to learn a new language, but it will help you develop as well.
How to go through pain and suffering. That's an important lesson in life. Yeah.
Definitely. And how about long-term projects? What's your thoughts regarding because we associate, and we've talked about like being challenged means that you are constantly changing, that you're constantly facing new things. And we immediately say, okay, facing a new thing means facing a challenge means facing something completely new. So that means changing projects. Can you be challenged staying in the same project?
I think you can. It's not easy because it always depends on the team setup, on the client. But in my case, I've learned to sell basically, right? So I'm in this project. It's a long-term project, and there are things that I see in the code base or the project-wise that I want to improve, and I just sell it to the client and say, hey, I think we could do this. Here's the benefits. You outline the benefits, and then they usually, if they have spare capacity, they'll go for it because why would they let their platform die, right? And other things, I just don't ask, right? So I have like my project is Vanilla.js, which I love, right? And I don't ask to bump to the latest ESLint, to the latest ECMAScript 6 or 10, now it's 23, right? I don't ask because it's development platform. I'm the owner, and as long as I comply with the browser matrix, that is fine, and I enhance the development experience, and then we are challenged with, doing different things. So I think it's you as a tech lead, as an architect, whatever it is, leading a team, you are also responsible for that, to motivate your team to find things that they can grow on. And as a tech lead, account manager, whatever it is, try to sell new stuff to grow the account and make it more challenging.
Okay, now this is very interesting that you mentioned it, because this happens when you're in a project for a long time. Usually, it's business as usual. What did you do this week? The same thing that I did last week. And I guess that's one of the things that people fear. That it's like, I'm not gonna get challenged. I'm not gonna learn new things. I'm gonna get stuck. And in a way, it can be true. But as you just mentioned, there are ways to actually not fall in this pit. That it's by constantly looking for things to improve. I mean, the code that we make the first time is not perfect. It can be improved in so many ways.
I wish, but no.
No, but you can never go. I mean, it's nice to strive for perfection or to do the best job that you can, but it's very hard to actually achieve it, and it's fine, because sometimes trying to achieve perfection, you can just waste time trying to do it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So there's always room for improvement. There's always what we've talked about, the technical depth that we're constantly getting into, and there's always ways to work, I think, on improving the technical, improving the code base and such. But now that you mentioned that you learn how to sell, you learn how to do other things, and I think that's an important thing that you have to take into account. When the project is business as usual, usually it means that you have more time to actually do other stuff.
Correct. Yeah.
Is there, for example, besides the improvements, is there anything that you use the time more that you like to do when you feel that you have a lot of extra time, let's say?
I mean, when the project has capacity, that's mostly what we do, right? I mean, I look for areas that are maybe left out for a very long time, unmaintained, and then you see, okay, we did that 4 years ago. Technology has changed. Now there's better ways. Like, I don't know, the other day we were talking about how we had like event listeners on a scroll, right? And now there's a better way with Intersection Observer and other things that are more performant, right? So why not take the opportunity, if you have a low period, low sprint, refactor all that code that is low performant to something else, then a new JavaScript API that performs better, or whatever it is, right? In my case, as I said at the beginning, moving from 100% JavaScript custom dialog element to the native one, right? Just and that's something that you cannot plan, because maybe, as we said before, maybe my code was perfect in the first go and my JavaScript model was perfect, but now there's the native, which is even better than my custom solution. So just go for it, refactor it, sell it to the client, and in the end, make it better.
I think that, for example, especially if you manage to streamline your work in the sense that that you can just come down, sit down, and do stuff. That usually means that you have a little, at least in my experience, that you have a little bit of time to concentrate on other things. And those other things, I would recommend, for example, for people to try to read a bit up on technologies, maybe do a small side project, just do a little bit of proof of concepts and all this kind of stuff.
Okay, so you meant outside of the project. So non-billable or?
No. It could be inside the project itself, as you mentioned. I sometimes do, for example, the proof of concepts. I also try to do it with the project itself. Like, okay, let's try to see what would happen if we, I don't know, for example, performance-wise, if we change this component one way or another, and then you can do a little bit of performance testing, and it's just while you're learning a little bit it's a learning process. You're learning how to do it, and then you can actually present to the client, hey, I did a little bit of, as you say, sell. A little bit of proof of concept. This is the difference. Do you want us to actually go fully and
very
develop?
Nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very good.
It's, I guess, one of the things that you have to take into account that you can also do when you're on a long-term project. So, do you want to discuss a little bit about some personal experience before we in the last stretch of the project?
Let's do it. You go ahead first.
Okay. One of the things that I have against jumping from project to project is that at one time I was working on a project that when we started it, at that point in the company, we said, oh, Backbone is a thing. We should use Backbone in every project. We even taught it in the academy that we had. It was like we had part of it was Backbone. So it's like, okay, fine, let's begin doing this project, which right now I would say it's legacy code in the company. It's still working. but it's made in Backbone. And I remember that it was quite challenging. I was quite happy to learn it. Happy-ish to learn it because I thought it was a little bit too much, but we had to do it with it. And in the end, I ended up being quite satisfied of it. Just to see Backbone be dropped out of our tech stack 1 year later, it's like, why did I even do it like with that? It's like, what was the point?
Well, I mean, you always can bet on JavaScript, on vanilla JavaScript, that is, right? If it were vanilla, you just change a few things and already, whoop, new stack, just latest. That's why, I mean, I think it's very hard for like front-end lead, tech lead, whatever it is, that to choose or to be close on a framework or a specific technology, because you know that eventually you will change projects or the project will be there for a long time, and then who comes next? What will they inherit? So please make even if it's yourself, make your life easier for your future self. Yeah.
Any project, any story that you'd like to?
I mean, sure, there are plenty. Yeah, I don't know right now to jump. Do your second one.
My second one. No. Don't worry. What I do want to convey to the audience that is listening to us is that I think that it is important to keep ourselves challenged, because it drives us it motivates us to do our work. At least I think it's a very powerful motivator for myself, being challenged by the work that I do. But I've had people that I work with that don't want to be challenged, and I tell them it's okay if this is what you need right now. If you don't need to be challenged constantly, if you don't need to be learning new things because you're fine where you are and you just need a moment of peace, I think it's fine. It's important to be challenged, but it's fine not to say, I don't want to be challenged right now.
And that took a very serious note. Yes, it felt like a funeral right here, but I agree with you totally. But as a front-end developers, update or die. So I'm agree with you that maybe I have a moment in my life that I need to break. I need to spend time with family, friends, whatever it is, and I don't want to have my weekends coding. But if you chose this career, this path, this front end, you got to know that you got to be updated or fall behind.
That is true. I do feel sometimes that there's still, when you see when you take a moment to see, what's it called? The state of CSS, the state of JavaScript.
Yeah.
When you go through them, you see a lot of things that are new. It's like, when did this come out? And it's been out for some time. It's like, what am I doing with my life? Yeah, it's true that. But I guess that that as long as you take that into account, that you have to stay up to date. The market changes so much.
AI, man, AI. Now.
AI.
We already talked about this. It's happening. So
maybe that's the challenge is not to to be able to use these new tools, for example, right now in development.
Yep.
Anyhow, I think that's all the time that we have this for today. For the audience, if you want to share with us, what do you prefer? Do you prefer, first of all, do you think that you should be challenged in your work every day or not? And what do you prefer, long-term projects or be changing from project to project? Tell us, let us hear it out. And with that note, thank you very much. Thank you, Ricardo.
Thank you. See you in the next Frontend Coffee Break.
See you in the next Coffee Break. Bye.